to the channel. Hey, before we start, do me a favor, hit the like button, the share button, subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate it. As always, it helps the channel grow. Um, and I'm not a financial advisor. Always do your own research. Always do your own research. But hey, I appreciate you guys rocking with me. Been a minute since I've been on. Gonna try to be more consistent. I know I always say that, but life be life in sometimes. But man, today's video, I think we got a good one, right? I want to talk about, you know, what are you willing to sacrifice for success? What are you willing to sacrifice for success? And sacrifices can come in many different things. It can be, in the physical, in the mental. It could be in the financial. What sacrifices are you willing to make to get ahead, to succeed in life? Before we get started on that, if you looking to get started, on your financial journey or your investing journey, I'm gonna leave a couple of links in the description box that could possibly help you out. So take a few minutes, check that out. I really appreciate it. But yeah, let's jump right into it, man. In this thing called life, man, you're gonna run into some bumps and bruises, some difficult challenges in life, and you have to learn how to adjust on the fly. And also in the midst of that, man, you got to make some sacrifices. In your life, whatever it may be, from a financial standpoint, are you willing to cut out some BS to get ahead? Um, for some, maybe social media, maybe, TV, cutting your cable, um, anything like that. Those are sacrifices that you have to make to get ahead sometimes. For me, I cut my cable. I did find a stream, you know what I'm saying? But I felt that for me to make some progress, I need to find some things to save money on and paying. What was I paying at the time? $80, $90 for cable. It just wasn't worth it. You know what I mean? So I always look for little ways to cut back, and that's just from a financial standpoint. Um, eating out, junk food, starting to cook more, and that's not only financial, but that's also from a health standpoint, right? I wanted to make some changes, in my life, and it's kind of hard when you've been doing stuff the same way, day in and day out, year in and year out, to kind of cut those things off. Everybody can't do a cold turkey, but it could be a process. For me personally, I don't eat pork, don't eat beef, although I grew up eating both of those things. Trying to cut back on junk food. I haven't got all the way where I wanted to get, but eating more fruits, vegetables, things like that, chicken, fish. For me, those are just some of the sacrifices. It may not seem like a lot, but uh, when you're used to doing things a certain way for so long, that actually is pretty tough to kind of make those adjustments. So, once again, from a some people have different sacrifices that they have to make in life, and some people battling their own demons, and you have to kind of overcome those things to get ahead. So, like I said, let me know in the chat, what are some things that you're willing to sacrifice or that you have sacrificed in order to be a better person, to get ahead in life, that helps you financially. It could be anything. We all got to make some sacrifices here and there. Um, Whether you had to, cut some people off, uh, not deal with any, certain type of people who may not bring, the best situation in your life. That's also a sacrifice. You know what I mean? A lot of people say, "Oh, I had to cut off family," and for them that may work. Me personally, I never try to say that I cut off family because I have a lot of family members that have passed that I wish I could have another conversation with. So I'll never say I cut off family because you never know. Um, you never know, man. You can take those words can come to fruition, and you can lose a family member that you love dearly, but you lost communication with them because you felt you need to cut them off. So I never want to say that. But for some people, that may may have been a necessary thing for them to do to get ahead in life. That's just a sacrifice that you know that you have to make. So, like I say, eating better, your physical health. What did you have to give up to be in better shape physically, or what are you willing to give up? What are you willing to give up? Like I said, financially. Some people have those addictions, man, and everything's not, a drug addiction or alcohol addiction. Addiction is it could be a silent addiction that you don't even know that you have, but you constantly involved. Like I said, the social media, man, is tough. It's a tough one. I was lucky enough to grow up without social media, but when it came along, man, in those 2000s, late 2000s, man, it's done grabbed a hold to a lot of people, and people, nowadays people can't live without their social media. So, but if that was a determination of whether you become successful or not, are you willing to give up something like social media for you to be successful? Are you willing to give up something financially that you're used to doing, going here, vacation or a trip to get ahead? Some people think, I've known people that they say they have to take 2 or 3 vacations a year, 2 or 3 trips a year, but struggling financially. You know what I mean? So are you willing to give up those vacations? Are you willing to give up those trips in order to get ahead in life? You know what I'm saying? Or get ahead in where you need to be to accomplish some goals that you want to accomplish. So, it's not a cut and dry situation, but it's very important to understand, those sacrifices that you have to make. Let me know what some other sacrifices that you have possibly had to make in order to get ahead in life or overcome a situation, whatever the case may be. So, I talk a lot of finance on this channel, debt. Man, just think about when you're paying off some debt, what sacrifices do you have to make to pay off some debt, right? Do you have to get a second job? Do you have to not participate in certain things that you're used to participating in? When your friends call you to go out, do you got to tell them no? Instead of eating at that high end restaurant, do you have to, you know, hey, do you have to maybe do a $5 or $10 meal, whatever that may be? Those are sacrifices. Those are sacrifices you have to make in life in order to get where you need to be, man. And that's just, it's important that we're able to make those sacrifices when the time comes to be able to put ourselves in a better situation, man. So, like I said, from a financial standpoint, when you get in that debt, and sometimes you feel like it's hard to overcome. I've been there before, and it can be tough, man. You got to lay out a plan to get yourself back on track. You know what I mean? What if you gain a bunch of weight and you're not quite sure how you need to lose this weight, but you just gotta something gotta give, right? You gotta sacrifice something to get back healthy and lose that weight if you put on some pounds or whatever the case may be. Um, like I said, if you used to going on 3 or 4 vacations, you want to go to a concert, but you got some other things. You got to pay this off. You got this going on. Kids may need this. What sacrifices are you willing to make? So this is not tied to a certain category. It's just tied to a mindset when that comes about. So, man, like I said, sacrifices are a part of life, man. We all have to make sacrifices, um, at one point or another. So, I've made quite a few sacrifices over these years in order to, accomplish goals that I set for myself. Um, and you just got to make it happen. You got to make it happen. So let me know in the chat. I don't want this to be a long video. Let me know what sacrifices you're willing to make in order to get ahead in life. And like I said, it's not going to be a long video. I really appreciate you guys tuning in. Remember to like, share, subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate it. And like I said, if you're looking to get ahead, I got some, in your financial journey, I got a few things in the chat. I'm not in the chat, but in the description box that, may be beneficial for you. So check those out, and I will talk to you guys later.